We're going to talk about this. Look at this. I got this email. It's from Google AdSense, right? Because I'm on the YouTubes, which is owned by Google, which I guess is owned by Alphabet, which I'm sure is owned by another company. Google, it's all one company. I'm pretty sure that's the whole goal, right? Isn't the whole goal one company? So this is what we got in the mail. I think it was today. It's from Google AdSense. So Google AdSense is what places the ads on all the videos on YouTube, and it says this: due to the war in Ukraine, we will pause monetization on content that exploits, dismisses, or condones the war. I don't really think they're doing that, because there's lots of content that condones the war that they're A-okay with. We've been telling you about it at MSNBC. They're actually calling for more war. Please note, we have already been enforcing on claims related to the war in Ukraine when they violated existing policies. For instance, the dangerous or derogatory content policy prohibits monetizing content that incites violence or denies tragic events. Well, they're certainly not doing this, because every reporter I've seen has been calling for more violence in Ukraine. They've been calling for more war. They've called for more direct intervention. Sean Penn said we can't be intimidated into not using nuclear weapons. What do you call that? They've been calling for more war in Ukraine on a daily basis on YouTube. Not only news people, but politicians. Adam Schiff says we're shipping arms to Ukraine so we can fight the Russians over there instead of fight them here. What is that called? That video's still up on YouTube. So none of this makes sense. All this is propaganda speak. So they can point to something when they want to censor you. And here's what else they said. This update is meant to clarify and in some cases expand our publisher guidance as it relates to this conflict. The pause includes, but is not limited to, claims that imply victims are responsible for their own tragedy or similar. I guess if you say that Ukraine provoked this attack, or then you couldn't say that. Does that mean you can't say that? That's what that sounds like. Such claims that the Ukraine is committing genocide. What if Ukraine is committing genocide? Do you think only one country is capable of that? What happens if they do that? Or deliberately attacking its own citizens. What if they do that? What if because that's how the whole Maidan coup happened in 2014. That actually happened. They attacked their own citizens. The people who wanted to overthrow the government attacked their own citizens, which was the neo-Nazis. And so I checked to see if they've demonetized. So this is still, our monetization is still on here, where I showed him demanding war, Ali Veshi, and saying we need direct military intervention with the United States and Russia and Ukraine. And that's still monetized. Also, here is Scott Ritter, when he came on to talk about how the accusation of a war crime committed by Russia and Bucha was probably false flag. He came on to talk about that. That's still monetized. So I think what they're doing is they're just letting you know they're going to be using those as a guise to censor you. Max, what do you make of this?
Well, remember that before February 24th, when Russian forces went into Ukraine, the U.S. State Department and the Biden administration generally was warning that Russia was going to stage a false flag attack. In other words, Russia was going to attack either its own population or ethnic Russians, the so-called pro-Russian separatists of the Donbass region. So the Biden administration was engaging in activity that was, you would think would be forbidden under this policy, because basically you're not allowed to allege that false flag attacks have occurred at any point in Ukraine. You will be punished and demonetized if you do so, even if you present concrete, overwhelming evidence that this has taken place. And we've seen so many deceptions since the war began, starting with Zelensky alleging that 13 Ukrainian border guards were killed by this Russian battleship after saying "F you, Russian."
Yeah.
And then they turn up alive. They had surrendered peacefully and Zelensky lied. Then the ghost of Kiev, the dumbest man in Congress, Adam Kinzinger, retweeting Samuel Hyde, the Philadelphia-based comedian, claiming to be this Ukrainian fighter pilot, the ghost of Kiev, who had taken down 40 Russian jets. Turned out it was just a prank. There was no ghost of Kiev.
Yes.
And just, we can go down the line with bogus stories.
On and on.
On and on. And so Google, which is a military and intelligence contractor, has been called in to prevent any questioning of the official narrative here under the grounds of preventing victim blaming,
Yes.
which shows that they've clearly taken a side in this
Yes.
conflict. Who are the victims? Well, we saw a Tochka U missile, I believe that's what it's called, a ballistic missile, hit the center of Donetsk during the second week of the war, I believe. Patrick, I'll think of his name in a second. Patrick Lancaster. There's so many Patricks. Patrick Lancaster, thank you, is a Donetsk-based U.S. journalist who's actually a U.S. Army veteran, and he was there on the scene to film how Ukrainian forces had bombed actually their own people, technically, according to the U.S. This is Ukraine, but these are ethnic Russians who are fighting to be separate and independent. And this was just an attack on the civilian population. Lancaster walked up in a bus and found blown up bodies in there, showed this. And then we heard last week about a train station in the city, I believe, of Kramatorsk, where another missile, an identical missile to this, which is said to be possessed by Ukrainian forces and not Russian forces, hit a train station. The missile was marked, the ballistic missile was marked "for the kids" in Ukrainian, which would suggest that whoever had inscribed those words on the missile was seeking revenge for children. And who has been saying that our children are being killed? I don't want to answer the question because I don't want you to get demonetized. Right. There's a serial number on that missile. The serial number suggests it belongs to one side, and it wasn't the side we were being told had fired it. And it's very common in these kinds of conflicts for there to be misfires, for missiles to be either shot down or to fall in their own on areas that weren't expected. But we got one side of the narrative that I think may have been incorrect here when it comes to this train station attack. But you can see right now that I'm hesitant to even offer my opinion on what actually took place. But there are ways of deducing who the missile belonged to, what the intent behind the launch was, and who possessed it in their arsenal. And according to Google, you're not really allowed to put those facts forward without being punished.
That's right. So if you, I mean, people don't realize Google, YouTube, they're military industrial complex contractors, intelligence community. And I remember Google used to have their slogan used to be "Do no evil." Then they started doing evil with the intelligence community and contractors, right? They're helping you be spied on and things like that.
Yeah.
And so didn't they also blur out parts of Gaza? Doesn't Google Maps do stuff like that all the time? That's kind of nefarious.
Well, Google Maps would also blur out areas where Israeli intelligence would tell them blur these out because these are secret bases. I mean,
okay.
They do all kinds of favors. I think Eric Schmidt, who is the former CEO, he's consulted for the Pentagon on competing with China on AI. In Amazon, which owns the Washington Post, they host the CIA's cloud. That's one of the biggest contracts they've gotten.
That's right.
They have a huge contract with the Pentagon.
That's right.
They're not just like friendly.
That's right.
What was that movie with the movie about Google that just presented them as this friendly, like fun workplace where like coders can go? And, what was that guy? Owen Wilson was in it, and he was who they worked for. Something like that. Was that him and Vince Vaughn? Double V?
Yeah, and it was
just watched that. And Vince Vaughn. It's just complete Silicon Valley propaganda.
Yes.
But I mean, the reality is a lot more. It's a whole lot darker than that.
Yes. Okay. Well, there you go. Now you know how the corporation that's a military-industrial complex that owns a social media platform, the biggest in the world, is going to help censor for the government. There you go. Come see a live stand-up show or be in Orlando, Tampa, Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, Omaha, Des Moines, everywhere. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for our live show tickets. Also, become a premium member and get access to all our extra stuff and help support the show. See you at a live show. Single tickets now available. Single tickets available.